Perfect. Thank you all for staying with us today for our final presentation of the year. It is a UPC tradition that we invite the superintendent to join us for the closing bell. And I see you've brought some friends as well. Cabinet, thank you for giving up your time to join us this morning. Dr. Bales, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, UPC, for the opportunity to be here and share with you some of the highlights and wrap-ups for the year. Yes, it's hard to believe we're just a week away, but we're finishing strong. Sometimes with a little anxiety. We've had a lot of communications lately over social media. Those are stressful times for all of us, of course, when safety is our top priority. But we take everything seriously, so we work through those. And in fact, since I was last here an hour ago, we're still working through another one. Seems like it's a daily issue. I think that we were talking about 19 communications in the last week alone. Just this week, so a lot. But we are excited to share with you. I am very pleased to have Cabinet here with me. Most of Cabinet. Ms. Berrigan is not able to join us today. She is gone this week. She was selected as a parent chaperone for that beloved Washington, D.C. trip with her daughter is attending. So she gets to play mom this week, and we're going to let her enjoy that experience. So she's not here, but I do have everybody else from Cabinet here today. And it is important to mention that this is Mr. Long's last UPC meeting with us, as he will be moving on. We are certainly grateful for his leadership. He doesn't have a lot of fanfare, but give him a nice round of applause. All right, so I'm going to play Dana, and here we go. So closing bell. We want to start with some of the academic highlights, and we're going to then pass the baton to some cabinet members to help, and then I'll fill in for Jill on some of her slides. But it's always nice to take a look in hindsight at some of the great things that the district and the students, staff are accomplishing. And so we're very proud of the National Merit semifinalists, recommended students from these high schools. The Flynn Scholarship recipients, they are amazing. Our national speech and debate gold medal champion. We have DECA first place winners. Have National Recognition Program for National Hispanic Recognition Award recipients, and 484 academic standard assessment with now perfect scores. So kudos to our students for the accomplishments that they have here with us. These are some more student experiences and highlights and things that maybe we took for granted until just a few years ago, and yet many of these came back for the first time this year. And so that's really nice to see that field trips, proms and assemblies, sport events, club activities and such, and volunteers. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say how much we appreciate our volunteers. They make it happen all across the district. And I know that our sites do a great job of loving on our volunteers. It's one of the things I miss about the building level was having a volunteer tea or breakfast. So we have these other highlights, the Arizona Cardinals Player of the Week. That was a female athlete who earned that award, very first ever. Kicker for the Paradise Valley High School football team. Robotics competitors. You'll see our winter guard state champions and percussion ensembles from Horizon actually recognized at the board meeting tomorrow night. I think we've got about 35 or 40 that are coming, so it's pretty.
Just those kids are from all around the district. They just happen to be in Horizon for the winter guard, but they're from all the high schools.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And that's another example of a collaboration from all of our high schools. Our high school marching bands collaborated in the Fiesta Bowl Day parade. And they traveled band and orchestra to Washington D.C., New York City to perform, and that was a wonderful field trip that included kids from all over. So. And then over the last couple of weeks, we've had the track and field champions as well. Girls at the North Canyon, I believe, won in their divisions. And it's just fun to see the great things that are happening all across our district. Kind of out of the superintendent's office, providing leadership. I think of the last 2 years working together with you as this foundational years. These were really developing the foundation for what I believe is the next step in transformation. That very first year, we worked very collaboratively to develop a robust strategic. It included the stakeholders, the voice, and I think it's put us on the right track to make great decisions, student-first decisions, driven through academic and student achievement that really helps us focus on limited resources. And then during this last year, we've expanded that to focus on those 4 district-wide initiatives. And those implementation rubrics have been developed now, and they're at the site level. 2 of them are already being assessed. The district needs assessment is happening now for 2 of those. When they come back in July, the other 2 rubrics will be used to assess where they're at. And then they'll develop the school plans for school improvement plans that over the next 2 to 4 years, we get to the point where all 4 district-wide initiatives are implemented with fidelity. No matter what experience our kids choose, where they choose, they're going to have those kind of same generic consistencies. Of course, we want the autonomy and the uniqueness that's offered at sites to bloom and grow and blossom. But there are certain things around the multi-tiered system of support. So no matter what schools they attend, they're going to get high quality tier 1 instruction. They're going to get the necessary tier 2 and tier 3 supports if they're struggling, or they need enrichment and extension. That there's going to be a focus on positive behavior interventions, right? There's going to be a focus on STEAM across the district. Now that'll have more autonomy, but there's going to be some minimum expectations that all of our kids have experiences with STEAM related activities, getting them to think along project-based and problem-based experiences. And so really excited about where we're going over the next couple of years in that transformation. We've tried to really expand the newsletter this year. We've moved from what was originally a subscription only until February when we flipped it and now send it to everybody. It's once a month, but it's reaching over 40,000 emails when we send that out now. And then based on our student voice, listening to our students, they wanted to have it as well. And so now we send the newsletter to our 9-12 students. We'll probably start to evolve into maybe we've talked about, do we have just a student version of the newsletter so that there's just articles related to student and the student success, that some of the articles and information are more parent driven. So we may evolve and get to more of a student type newsletter and send to them. But right now they're getting a copy of that as well. And then just as another form to share information, we created PVB. Many of you are probably not subscribers to that, depends on your age category, but our millennials, you got it. You're not one of them.
What is the yeah.
Under 45, really, parents, Matt, would you say?
Geez, really? That's oh,
Just another average. All right,
yes.
so helping me help share some of the highlights of instructional leadership, Dr. Jarrett.
My information is welcome to people of all. One of the areas under my department is the calendar committee. Every 4 years, we create a set of 4 calendars. I don't even enjoy it. So we do have 4 years of calendars created. This we did. We were able to put in we're continuing our PDIS efforts or positive behavior intervention support. We've had 8 schools apply for our recognition, and we'll be finding out later this month whether or not they've earned that recognition. 5 schools are embarking on their first journey with PBIS by sending a team to tier 1 training. And then one of the challenges with all of our programs is maintaining them and sustaining them as we have new staff members coming and going. So as over the course of 3 or 4 years, if you've replaced your teachers by a third, that's a third of your staff that missed maybe some initial training. So we do offer refresh training. So we've had 2 schools complete their tier 1 refresh training. And then 7 schools that completed their tier 2 refresh training. So still continuing to make really solid effort in making sure that our schools have a solid system in place. Mind the right spot here. What am I hitting?
Just the arrow down.
We have at our schools a variety of needs of support services that are led by individuals that kind of hit the social emotional side of our schools, of our students. We have counselors, social workers, psychologists, our social emotional support staff, and typically they've always operated in silos. And we've had very common interests going on with maybe some different paths. And so last year they decided it would be really valuable for us to start working together and align our efforts to make sure that we're supporting each other and kind of better defining our roles. Last year, they made a lot of progress with that. This year, they continue that conversation and kind of refining what a system looks like at a school where we have a social worker and a psychologist and a counselor, and helping understand at the school how they can best work together to support our students. So that continued this year. And I've also been working with them on, there's a law called Jake's Law that provided funding to access to provide mental health support to families who need it, who can't qualify on their own or provide it on their own. And it also opens the door for that to happen in schools. That's desirable by families, because that's the best time for someone to meet with them. So like everyone else, we have limited resources. A lot of these agencies that we're trying to partner with are struggling to staff themselves and provide the support to actually come on campuses. But what this means is we're creating some memorandum of agreements with some agencies where if we have a student in need, we can reach out to the family, suggest that, hey, you might consider doing some outside counseling. If you can't provide it on your own, we can refer the student on your behalf to the agency. The agency works with the parent directly and provides that service. If it works out that they like to come do it on campus, we provide the space for them. But that's all done in coordination with the parent and the agency, and making sure that works out for them. So we're waiting for those memorandum of agreements to be previewed by both of our attorneys, but we'll have in place for next year some really solid partnerships. So we think will benefit our students. I also work with our volunteers in Volunteer in Paradise program, which just celebrated their 10th anniversary. We have about 150, I believe, right now, volunteers who come into our schools to tutor students and work with our teachers to support students. And it says on here, we've just completed 10,000 hours of tutoring to students. It's actually 11,600 hours. It's been a fantastic program of bringing the community in and supporting our schools. They added a couple of different elements this year. They partnered with NAU AmeriCorps Seniors Program, which is a foster grandparent program where NAU is supporting individuals who are looking to volunteer. And so we've been able to work with them to bring in a few more volunteers. And of course, if you love dogs, they added the Paws in Paradise, which are therapy dogs who come into schools and work with students as well. And that's under the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. And then probably most exciting is that when the summer comes, a lot of our volunteers are looking for opportunities of how do we support students. And this year, our VIP program is partnering with our special education department to provide support to our extended school year program, which is our summer school offering for students with special needs. And so it's a great opportunity to continue building that connection with our students through volunteers. And then lastly, community education is a very valuable program for our students and our families, not only the enrichment courses, but our before and after school programs, our preschool programs. We love to continue to provide them. And that involves constantly evaluating A, what is the need, and B, what is viable for us. And with all the inflation costs over the last 5 to 6 years, 10 years, we had to reevaluate our program and determine that unfortunately, we need to raise some prices. And so we did put some new price structures in place that will allow the program to continue to be viable and successful for our program. So that was a big lift for this year. Also, we've acquired 4 new 21st century grant programs. That's an after school program and before school program for title schools. So I believe we have 10.
12.
How many? 12?
12.
Thank you. 12. Total where they're able to provide before and after school programming through 21st century grant. We have mascot camps for those of you who don't utilize or don't know on those vacation days on Memorial Day, or not Memorial Day, it could be more like Labor Day, and on other holidays where we don't have school. We do offer a mascot camp for families to be able to send their students, but we don't staff those specifically, staff people that specifically work that. That's a volunteer. All of our other mascot employees can sign up. And we're seeing fewer and fewer students or fewer employees volunteering to work those camps. And in order to keep them open, we had to provide some kind of incentive structure. So we were able to utilize the workforce grant, which comes from DCS, to provide incentives so we can continue operating those camps. We added an IB preschool program to support the program at Quail Run. And then we've also worked to improve our registration process. We had a registration process that didn't sync exactly with Infinite Campus. If you went through that process, it was a lot of double entry and a lot of extra work, and they hopefully have aligned that to make it work. I say hopefully because I haven't experienced it myself. So I may hear from you if you didn't think it was a great move, but I believe it, for the most part, it helped eliminate a lot of extra steps that we were having to do. And then lastly, we had a partnership prior to the pandemic with the Phoenix Zoo. It was a virtual learning opportunity where students in school, in after school programs during the day could log in, and they were given a virtual field trip and given a lot of behind the scenes access to the zoo. That ended with the pandemic, and we were able to get it going again this year. And it actually expanded the program a little bit to not only reach our title schools, but also our 21st century grants. So that's a very positive step, so returning to some of the normalcy that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Kirby. Secondary, Mr. Long.
I was thinking how my 13-year-old dog Winston could be a therapy dog. He has a resting heart rate of about 8. It's a lot. What we've been prioritizing in secondary leadership over the last couple of years has been. I got
You can't be Sue Skidmore. It's too much. I can't.
Come on this side.
Good.
Lights, camera.
Yes.
The last couple of years, we've been focusing on mathematics. If you follow some of our statistics, that has been our nemesis as it is across the country. And that gap just got wider during the pandemic, and it still continues to be something that we'll continually have to do. So working cooperatively with the curriculum department, really my leadership and direction has been focused on principles and how we work with mathematics teachers. So one of the things that we really had to focus on is observations, what we're looking for in classrooms, what are the expectations. So we did joint observations where myself, the math curriculum specialist, the principal or assistant principal will go into classrooms, work with teachers, watch. We've done some post-observation conferences with those teachers just to get the conversation going about what we need to do and get everyone on the same page. We've worked cooperatively to ensure as building leaders, the expectations are set that we use those assessments that have been created by our curriculum department. There's a lot of time and effort went into that, but sometimes people don't use some of the tools that we have to get on the same page. So the curriculum department we did pre-screeners, they created mid-unit assessments and end-of-unit assessments to get everyone on the same page so that we can talk about as a district and leverage the resources that we do have so that our math curriculum specialists can offer professional development based on what we see as a district and what we see as a school. And that's difficult to do to get some people to change some of their habits. But these screeners, while not 100% implemented at this time, we've made a lot of gains in terms of getting some common assessments, common conversations through IDLs and the math teachers to try to get on the same page. With that said, we still have people going a little rogue using different resources. But we have now gotten everyone on the same page at the middle and high school that we're using the adopted curriculum. And what that does, it enables people to have that same language. It leverages the resources and the time that we have in terms of professional development to make sure we're seeing everything collectively as a district, because it's as a district that will move forward. Let's see, Project Momentum continues. That's some elementary schools as well. But at the secondary level, that's Vista and North Canyon, but it also includes Eagle Ridge Elementary, Echo Mountain Intermediate, and we're slowly bringing on Echo Mountain Primary and Greenway Middle School for next year. And that program really helps those schools formulate how their PLCs are operated, the questions that they should be asking, and the data that's used in all of that. And we're into technically, it's really only the second full year that we're in implementation of that, but that will continue. We have a coordinator assigned to that next year because we also want to scale that up throughout the district. So that will allow us to leverage that resource as we implement our district initiatives in PLC and MTSS, our systems of support for students. We also began our first full year of Elevate Ed Arizona partnership with the city of the Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. Basically, we have a great CTE program in our district, but this program allows us to audit, look at our program, see what students are interested in, but also taking a look at industry standards and credentialing and what the community and businesses need here in Arizona. So we're specifically focusing on, through that program, high wage, high demand jobs. So we housed that program this year at Paradise Valley High School. And this was outside of the press program when we're looking at those high demand, high wage, high demand positions. And we're looking to possibly expand that into another high school next year. It focuses on making sure teachers have access to business and industry. There's been teacher field trips to places such as Honeywell, as well as students taking field trips as well. Eventually, you get to internships for those students in those specific areas. We're not there yet, but we're trying to develop those. And so we're looking forward to that continued partnership. And one of our schools that received the 21st Century Grant this coming year is Vista Verity Middle School, which is a school that needs those resources. And so we're excited and looking forward to that as well. So, thank you. That's it.
Dr. Corson. Well, good morning, everyone. Just want to share with you some highlights of some various departments that fall under the Division of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. So our assessment department has been working on our state testing, and we are thrilled that we reached nearly 100% attendance for all of our state tests. That is just a huge accomplishment. The state requires us to reach 95%, but to get that close to 100% is really just a testament to the hard work that our teachers are doing, and really the work of our families and getting our students and children to class to test. We also implemented over 100,000 student formative assessments. These are teacher common formative assessments that exist within our system that are really used to help teachers understand where our children or students are at any given moment so that they can make some instructional decisions immediately as a result of those assessments. And so those formative assessments are almost most critical to the classroom to help teachers make decisions about what next to do as a result of how the students are performing. So we're really excited about that. In our IT or information technology department, they have been working 24/7, 365 days to make sure that all the devices within our system, most specifically those devices associated with students that are take-home devices, are operational, running, fixed when they're broken, and so that all students have access to the curriculum and tools that they need, as well as our teachers and staff. So that is a full-time job for many of our IT staff members, is to make sure that our devices are constantly up and running all the time. We've also, in our IT department, through Cabinet, have adopted some industry frameworks in cybersecurity, privacy, and data governance. If you haven't tracked some of the work that's happening or some of the challenges in cybersecurity, K-12 systems and colleges and universities have become really susceptible to cyber attacks. And so our IT department are trying to stay a couple of steps ahead of that to ensure that we have a safe ecosystem within our IT. And that continues to be a challenge, but really a credit to our IT department for keeping us as ahead of the game as we possibly can to protect our system. Because when a system is attacked, it shuts down everything. Probably seen that in other industries and businesses, and even in other school districts throughout the country that have been susceptible to cyber attacks. It shuts down the system for quite a while until that can be figured out. So we're thrilled that our IT department kind of has their eye on this particular. Thank you, Dr. Bales. In special education, several of UPC had an opportunity to visit the Mayo Clinic, where we have a partnership with the Mayo Clinic and our with Project Surge and our special education. And we're thrilled to announce that we have 6 of the students that are participating in that program actually are getting jobs at the Mayo Clinic. That was never really the intention of Mayo Clinic, actually. It was not necessarily to provide jobs for these students after this program. It was really a partnership into providing job embedded skills for our students through the Mayo Clinic. But the Mayo Clinic has been so impressed with the students working in this program that they have been scooping them up as a part of the future employment. And it's really a credit to those families. And this is a program, I believe, that has literally changed people's lives. And so we're excited about that. We've also exited 266 students from special education services. What that means is that they were identified for needing special education services. We have provided the supports that those students have needed to the point that they no longer need that kind of special education support. They're now successful in the general education classroom with some differentiation, but not with the intensive special education support. So, this is really a great accomplishment and celebration for those special education teachers and families who have worked with those students to the point that they are now successful without needing some of those services. In Gifted, we have restructured our Twice Exceptional program. Twice Exceptional are those students that have classified for being gifted, as well as having a special education identification with them. That's the Twice Exceptional part of it. And so we're revamping that and really beefing up our understanding around neurodiversity, which is kind of that name for that Twice Exceptional. We've also increased gifted identification in our Title I schools. That sometimes is an underserved population of students that are not necessarily, because of some academic gaps, they're not always recognized as being gifted, yet they are. And so using different methods of assessing those students, we're able to actually identify those students who may have academic gifts, but are nonetheless gifted. And so it's important to recognize those so that we can get individualized and differentiated instruction to those students. And then we've increased the number of teachers seeking and earning gifted endorsements. That's not only to service our gifted populations, but what we know about gifted endorsements is these teachers have a wealth of knowledge about working with all students. And so not only does it support our gifted learners, but it supports all students who earn gifted endorsements because they really are at the top of their game instructionally. In professional development, we have a Center for Teacher Development. This Center for Teacher Development are a series of classrooms throughout the district that actually have some cameras in the classroom for other teachers to be able to peek into those classrooms to see master teachers at work. All of these teachers that have been identified for the Center for Teacher Development are top of their game. Absolute master teachers who employ evidence-based strategies, who understand classroom management, and it gives us a tool to work with newer teachers or other teachers looking to expand their professionalism, to watch strategies at work in those classrooms, to watch a teacher manage a classroom, and through some support of some coaches working then with those teachers in terms of what they're seeing, it's really helping other teachers develop their professionalism by watching master teachers. We've had 130 teachers visit these master classrooms to improve their instruction. We've also increased our special education professional development workshops by 125%. That continues to be a need for us to work with various learners on the continuum who are not only just special education identified, but we recognize that learners in general have a large gap or continuum based on their skills and backgrounds and achievement challenges and opportunities. And so that kind of professional development really helps services all kids, including special education. We administered over 2,000 English language learner assessments. Those are assessments for students who are second language learners in our classrooms. And it's really important that we are working on those students' language development so they have access to the curriculum that they need for other classes. And so we're watching our EL learners very carefully and helping them move along so that they can be successful in school and other opportunities in life. And so we've been working specifically with a lot of schools that have a lot of EL populations to really help move those students forward in language, writing, and communication around second language. In fine arts, we have a seal of arts proficiency, and every year we are working to get better communication out to the students in the arts field, as well as partnering with those students so that they can earn the seal of arts. And I think we've increased that by about 20 more students this year than previous year. So we're always working to increase that. We're excited about that. If you haven't been to Pinnacle High School to see their Performing Arts Center, it's a beautiful facility. Again, thanks to our bond dollars in our community who have supported these efforts to create spaces for our students to demonstrate the very best talents. And so we're really excited about the result at Pinnacle High School. And then in curriculum, we've been working to implement and pilot common final exams in the core areas of English, math, social studies, and science. This work is really important for us because these common final exams that are administered to all high school students across all of our high school students in those particular courses really set the bar for alignment to the state standards, alignment to the level of rigor that we're expecting students to achieve, and to prepare them for the kinds of experiences that they're going to have with the ACT test when they're juniors. Those assessments are tough, rigorous, and challenging for students, but that's the level that we expect our students to achieve, and it sets the bar for us, both in the classroom and as a district, to do everything that we can to prepare our students so that they leave us college and career ready. So those assessments are very important to us, not only to set the bar, but then to see how we're doing as a system in moving our students forward. And then finally, we've been working this year across K-12 schools to implement new writing resources. Writing is part of our literacy work that we have been focused on, and writing was an area where we believed that our curriculum resources weren't supporting us and as well as we needed to. And so we did invest as a district in some writing resources that are being utilized in K-12 now to support that particular literacy strand in our work, and we're really excited by some of the early results that we're receiving with that. That's all I have.
All right, Dr. Corey. Dr. Holmes.
Good morning, everybody. Okay. So out of the world of human resources this year. Last year, you may recall that we developed our own in-house educator prep program specific for special education. We've expanded that this year to develop a K-8 problem or a K-8 program, if you will. So, why are we doing this? Well, the teacher shortage that we've talked about for quite a few years now exists. I think at some levels becomes more and more challenging, a little bit more challenging each year. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody, especially if you think about the typical college-bound seniors thinking about their careers. Thinking about a career in education is maybe just a little bit tainted by the public discourse, the ongoing public discourse around teacher pay, something that we're constantly trying to work on. But we also know that sometimes those college-bound seniors go on to college and earn a degree, and then decide that their time in life is better spent as an educator, and they want to do that. This is the type of program that allows an individual like that to enter the profession. Because the basic requirements of the program are that they have to have a bachelor's degree. It can be in anything, and then from there, the state has designed this such that we can employ our expertise in training them to become an educator. So it does help. It's another way that it helps us to recruit teachers that otherwise wouldn't consider going into the profession because they wouldn't be able to see the path to get there because of certification. Next on the list, Paradise Valley Community College, you are likely probably remember hearing at some point that community colleges were given the opportunity, the ability to offer four-year degree or a four-year degree, bachelor's degree in some specific areas. And one of those areas is in education. So, you know, from the HR perspective in public schools, that is absolutely fantastic. Piggybacking off you know, our first item here, that is a way for people to get into a certification program in a much more affordable way than a typical path through a state university. The affordability factor is tremendous to be able to offer that kind of program through PVCC. So they, of course, are right up the street in our backyard. So we are, and I think this group probably knows that they have advisors embedded in our high schools. So there's a lot of opportunity there to promote the profession and recruit our graduating seniors right into a program right up the street that could eventually become, you know, our graduates being back in our system as teachers, which many of you know, we have a whole bunch of that in PV. We have actually a very proud history and tradition of a number of our, I think about our leaders in particular. When I first came to PV and met a lot of our leaders, the number of people who started their personal story by saying, well, I'm a product of PV, and they list off the schools. So this is extending off that. We also are, you know, as a part of that conversation, one of the things that we're trying to leverage through that partnership is actually getting, while they're actually a student in this program, getting them to work in our schools. As I know you are very well aware, we have a lot of vacancies, in particular instructional aides is what we're thinking about, because for folks who are pursuing a degree in education, it's a natural connection to try to recruit them while they're studying to be a teacher, to recruit them into instructional aid positions. So that's part of the conversation that we're having with PVCC around that program and the developing partnership with them. We also have Dr. Bales talked about the strategic plan at the beginning. You know, that is something that we have taken time within the department to take a close look at, because there are some pieces that are very directly connected to work out of human resources. You know, in particular, the one that we really want to tackle, which is like a technical thing, is the time to hire. So that is something that is historically been very challenging, not just in PV, but in public schools, period. And some of that is due to the nature of, you know, how careful we are in the process of hiring people and some of the legal requirements that we have to engage in. That is a piece that's in the strategic plan that we very specifically are continuing to work through. And then new this year, staff engagement and climate survey. That was something that we distributed in November of this year. It was the first time that we had done that for all of our employees. And it's something that we the conversation since is that we're going to continue to do that in subsequent years, probably a little bit later in the year. But we think that the information that we got out of that was very valuable, in particular to our leaders, and something that we think is good practice that we want to continue in the future. So we'll be continuing to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Jacoby, your turn.
I have the pleasure of talking about communications and marketing in PV schools. These are just a few quick recaps of the accomplishments over the past school year. The marketing department has one marketing specialist, but she works with web content editors at each of the school buildings, and together they managed over 9,100 pages full of content. That includes making sure information is up to date, as well as changing layouts to make the experience on our website better for users. That process will continue. We like to say in our department that the website is never done, so we just keep making changes as we go along. The district as a whole has been very busy communicating. The marketing department oversaw 2.9 million emails, over 500,000 text messages, and over 400,000 phone calls being sent out this school year. The department, who has one social media specialist, sent out 4,200 Facebook posts, reached over 100,000 accounts on Twitter and 14,000 accounts on Instagram. When I pulled information for this slide, we were just over 500 projects. The 6 of us completed over the year, but we're on track to do between 600 and 700 by the end of the year. So very busy communicating, and we'll continue to be throughout the summer next year. Yeah.
All right, business operations, I'm gonna fill in for Jill. I'm not as pretty or as specialized in this area, but I will summarize for her. We, as you've mentioned earlier, we did do some work around the district. The Pinnacle Growing Arts Center is now just as nice as any of the others that have been remodeled in the last few years since the 2019 bond. We also started the year with a new rebuild at Howell Primary. Of course, other expenditures out of the bond also supports 41 HVAC units at Desert Springs, and just the total number of projects for repair, replace, or refresh across the district in the last year is around $50 million. Finance and payroll, as we are a large organization, have big budgets, nearly 4,000 people, and we have a lot of accounting requirements. We certainly have internal and external auditors as required, and so we're happy to see that there's no significant deficiency or material weaknesses. So anybody's CPA understands that language, and then nothing was identified there in our financial statements for internal controls. We reduced the number of compliance questionnaire findings from 10 in fiscal 21 to only 1 in fiscal 22. So it's a really nice improvement. We also facilitated, and huge thanks to behind the scenes workers in HR, finance, and payroll to distribute that additional 2% base pay to employees mid-year here. That was paid out in January. So we've continued to, meet some of the workforce requirements and handing out dollars as we can make them available. So moving on. Nutrition and wellness, another department that is very, very busy, complying with USDA regulation. You may recall that we started this year having to require people complete a free and reduced lunch application. There was a couple of years where they didn't, a couple of years where we just provided lunch to everybody. We're being reversed for all of that. That changed, right? So now we're back to requiring that new meal application annually. That's always difficult to get, but quite frankly, those applications drive a lot of the resources that the district can get to support kids in poverty and families in need. So it is important that we work with families to get them to complete that if they need and meet those requirements. They also implemented ID scanners at the elementary level. Long gone are the days where everybody's punching the keypad. So that was kind of nice to see that improve the efficiency of them. They completed their ABE Health and Nutrition Administrative Review. Don't believe that happens every year. I think it's every 3 years. And then the district serves around 9,500 lunches per day, with nearly 27,000 students. Well, that's a lot. So if you've been in the cafeteria, most of the elementary schools, there's one person there, preparing all those meals and such. But they do a great job. This is it is a decrease though from last year, obviously because of the expiration of the USDA free meal program. In purchasing, good news, we had no findings for fiscal 22. So that's amazing for a district this size. Happy to see that continue. We facilitated the issuance and award of over 20 new contracts. We approved and distributed over 10,000 purchase orders. We have some new vending machines. This doesn't mean anything to you, but we got vending machines out here. All right, you can have to use a little credit card or debit card now. You aren't shaking the machine anymore, paying for the 50 cents or something. And then registered over 500 new vendors, hosted annual training, purchasing aimed at educating the 60 new end users. This is people at the building level that are handling that, from bookstore managers to secretaries, record secretaries, lots of people all across the district that handle that. And then they distributed and assisted with site moves. So this the purchasing department also includes the distribution and the warehouse. So it's across the street at 32nd Street. So those folks, they receive lots and lots of materials that come to the district and go out to the schools. They have mail service for internal mail, and then they're in charge of moving sometimes teachers, when we surplus teachers, if it's just a voluntary, I've interviewed, I've selected, I've moved them my own, they move themselves, but if we have to move them, we move them. In those cases, and of course, with the Halloween move, we had everybody out in the temporary location at Air Libre and then moved them all back last summer for their new building. They're busy people. All crowd. Transportation. We covered all the routes, despite only having 58 out of 110. We're still the only district that has not canceled routes. Now, we're not necessarily proud of the delays. Sometimes 40 minutes or more on both ends of the day. We'd rather get the kids here and get them home safely than not at all. And many times that's what happens when you cancel routes. They just don't come. And so we are stressed in terms of our workforce in running double and triple runs. Nearly every driver is over 65. Nearly every driver is working 50 hours a week. And we are so thankful for them for hanging in there with us. And despite raising, the hourly rate to $19.80 something an hour, $19.82, $3 increase over the last year and a half. So it hasn't made the difference we wanted it to make, but we're still very proud of the work that they have done. We have only 19 bus aides that help cover 45 special needs routes. We need bus aides sometimes to ride along on those buses for kids that are severe and need support there. We did transport over 700 field trips today. That's an amazing number. Of course, there was a lot of field trips that were provided by private service too, private coach, such. And sometimes we have to engage with those private vendors for athletic transportation, drama, marching band, all those things. We're stressed to provide the needs, but for what we did with our workforce is amazing. And look at that, 900,000 miles in a year so far. It's a lot of miles. Yes, that's why bond dollars, help replace buses. Transportation, tires, engine. So looking forward, I think it's important to note that, we're going to continue to have a focus on teaching and learning with an emphasis on improving our student achievement. I truly believe that that's our mission, that's our focus, and that will, help people choose PV as their first choice educational provider for a pre-K-12 center. And so I'm excited that our strategic plan gives us that roadmap, directs us in that area, helps us maximize our resources, but remains focused on student achievement. We're going to continue to build upon our stakeholder relationships to implement that plan this year. You'll see and more when I come back in the fall for the opening bell. We'll show you what some of those implementation rubrics look like, where the sites are at in the assessments, and then what that looks like going forward. That strategic plan helps us with those district-wide initiatives and ensure that we have, healthy financial well-being. And so I read an article this morning that, the things that we've been challenged with over the last year is happening all across the country. Whether it's a budget shortfall, a workforce shortage, whether it's fewer teacher applicants, everything that we're experiencing from Washington, state of Washington to Virginia, districts were named in that as facing the same challenges that we have as well. So we're not unique to PV. We're kind of all facing those same challenges. But I'm excited about moving forward and serving superintendency here in PV schools. I truly believe that over the next 2 to 4 years, we see this transformation and we become that first choice for education in this North Valley and beyond. If there's one thing that still scares me, it's AI. So we talked about artificial intelligence, and one of the articles I read early this morning, yes, that's what I do early. But one of the articles I read this morning was how kids are preferring AI over tutors. It's probably an opportunity, a tutor. Yeah, and AI, go to chat box GPT, right? They'd rather have that than an actual human tutor. That was interesting. But it's just one of these things that's the acceleration of what education looks like over the next few years, I think is going to change because of some of those tools. And I think we need to embrace it and find the right parameters and balance. But I'm really excited where PV is positioned and how we're going to transform together. So thank you for your support. At this time, I'd be happy to answer a few questions. Yes.
The program for dogs. UPC had a presentation done here. Have any of the schools picked that up? These dogs help students who might be having a mental crisis that particular day. And they would, but the school has to approve the program and it takes about 6 months. I was wondering if any, the title school picked up one.
It's a good question, Elaine. Dr. Jersey, you're aware of any of the schools that have picked up the pause?
So you said a reference to the program of UPC, was that the Pause in Paradise, or was that bigger thing?
We had that, yes, it was not Pause in Paradise.
Yes,
The district went a different direction.
yeah, I believe one of our schools is working with theater now to get a proper and get that all up and running for them.
Is that a title school? Okay.
I would say not many students in the crisis that they come in, as far as I know, they tend to be more of a regular visit, come in and be part of a proactive effort of getting to feel more comfortable with the environment and reading that. It tends to be different, right?
They did, what child in the element who might be having a mental breakdown that particular day. And having that, but you have to have a trainer on site. It's not just anybody, it has to be a trainer on site. And this project takes about 6 months to get started, and school has to have a specific place, I guess, in the building for students who might just, all of a sudden just go off. I can think of an incident where my grandson, first day of school, just went berserk. I don't know what his problem was, but
You were presenting something I needed to explore more, because my understanding is that the program is a little bit more of a proactive. They come in and the students read with the dogs and then give them an opportunity to kind of get comfortable. Because if you have a student in crisis right now, the opportunity to call a family to bring in a dog, that's a piece that I'm not aware of. It's something that, but I will certainly look into it some more. But I do know that one of our title schools is working with Gabriel's Angels to establish that partnership.
You're supposed to know the process to be able to have the Pause in Paradise at this school.
Yeah, the Pause in Paradise, well, that's through VIP, and so that's a piece that we're working with the principals, and it's relatively new. So that's part of our kind of indoctrination program for next year when they all come back and we say, here's what VIP does, and here's all the components do.
I was dropping something off randomly at not Hidden Hills. Maybe it was Desert Cove. And the dogs were all there. They were getting ready to read with the kids, and it was a regular thing that they do. And so that was pretty cool. So yeah.
Thank you. Next question. Yeah.
Has the issue with the social media and the attachment to our website been resolved?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yay.
And thank you to somebody in here that put us in connection, no names.
Nice job.
No names, but yes, I was so happy to hear that the mention here made the connection for us to resolve that.
That's awesome.
Anything I need to add on that, Matt?
Not only did it fix that problem, it also fixed another problem we were having with Facebook, so we helped raise that up.
Yay.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, very nice.
Power of a large community.
Yeah. There's a question online. Oh, no, that was you just saying. We're good. No questions online.
I guess I have another one. How is the new math curriculum implementation going? I know you mentioned that we're going to get spelled back math, and I know that was one of the things.
Yeah, this is like a joint here, because
Okay.
the secondary folks have bought into that. So this was their first year, so it's good to get through it, and now they start owning it a little bit more. So our curriculum math specialist is met regularly with the IDLs and has offered professional development on working through that curriculum. So I think it's going very well, and I know that our high school folks are using it.
Okay.
Is there anything else with this?
Yeah, no, I've had an opportunity to walk through math classes as well with our curriculum specialist and talk with teachers about how the implementation is going. And so from that, we realized some opportunities and challenges, and we've aligned some professional development with their needs. So I think overall it's going well.
Our math teachers are tired of seeing us.
Next question.
I don't want to make this site specific, and I'm sure other schools in the district are facing this, but with regards to staffing and popping the classes coming into the fall, based on the numbers, I'm speaking for Sonora and Sky, so this has been a conversation on our site council, just with regards to Dr. Nurse. Just with regards to the number of classes that are at threshold or actually pushing threshold. I totally understand the see the white of their eyes and what we're doing with regards to budget, but having had a kid who lived through popping the class in kindergarten, I'm facing the same situation rolling into 6th grade, which with much bigger classes. And our school in particular, and I'm sure many schools in the district are doing the same thing, but we have been marketing and trying to push for getting that enrollment back, especially because we sit on the border with Scottsdale. So there's a lot of crossover there, and everybody knows the history there. So I'm just looking at what does that look like for making those decisions, especially with regards to what Dr. Holmes talked about with regard to recruiting, because you're looking at recruiting new teachers. Well, we have some experienced teachers that are either taking leave of absence or have moved on to other schools because there weren't positions in the particular grades they were looking for. And I know that those grades are potentially going to be the ones that are going to be popping.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was long.
That's a long question,
Yeah.
but I think I'll maybe ask Dr. Holmes to fill in, but first of all, yes, we are monitoring that closely. Dr. Holmes and his team will work closely with the principal. We want to make decisions as soon as possible. We don't have to wait until after the start of the year, the better. We know it has impacts, right? But that being said, I don't know if you have a number. I know he's on speed dial with a number of principals who keep telling every day when they enroll a new kid. And we also build into the budget a contingency so that we can add those. So that financially we positioned ourselves to be able to add them when we can. And then finally, we do have language for how we, give teachers the opportunity to come back to positions or return to positions either at the school that they left or such. So we have all those kind of procedures in place. Is there anything you'd like to add, Dr. Holmes?
No, I think that was it. Principals are pretty good. They're not shy about calling me. Part of the trickiness of the conversation is a lot of times we're very focused on what we have right now in terms of numbers, but most schools have a little bit of loss over the summertime, and so it becomes particularly tricky when you're right on the line. I mean, it's not a hard conversation when there's 6, 7, 8 kids above that you have. You're not protecting the leads that they go. But when it's right at the staffing ratio, that's where the conversation becomes tough.
And one of the things, this goes both ways, and I'll explain in a second. But the first part is, when the principals and the staff come back in July, they come back pretty early. If they're right at that bubble, we encourage them to start reaching out and confirming with people. Is there any change over the last 30 days? Or, and so confirming their numbers helps Dr. Holmes' team make those decisions sooner than later. We not only do that in kindergarten, but we can do it in other grade levels, especially when they're right at that maximum staffing ratio. But it also goes both ways. We also then have to recognize that if we're allowing transfers, internally and taking new kids from outside and such, there may be drops. So we have to realize that sometimes we may have to collapse some sections, even though that's painful. That we started that, last year. We don't have the luxury of letting that go for a year at a time because we're in current year funding. We're not in that delayed funding. So maximizing our resources means it goes both ways. So if we drop significantly below a staffing ratio and we can collapse a classroom to stay within ratios, we may have to do that too. So. Yes, Ellie.
I have 2 questions. I hate to bring this up, involved curriculum and including a grade level in particular secondary schools. And I'm referring to the 6th grade that should be incorporated into secondary schools because technically speaking, the 6th grade can be or should be the beginning of middle school. The transfer and they're still in the elementary school. And when they get to middle school, they have a big adjustment, like it changes them completely. So I don't know if it's ever been talked about or thought about our district when you have curriculums and things of that nature that you make sixth grade part of a secondary school, even though it's still in an elementary school. That was number one. And number two was the IB program that Quail run. Why only Quail run? Why not a title school?
Let me answer the first question first. I'm going to ask Dr. Corson to jump in as well on that one, because I do know that over time, curriculum adoptions have focused sometimes K-5, 6, 8, and such. Is there anything you'd like to add on that? Because it is a factor that you consider based on the resources of it.
Yeah, we do consider that with our curriculum adoptions, whether or not to bring the sixth grade curriculum as part of the seventh grade and eighth grade curriculum. So for example, in math currently, the sixth grade curriculum is in alignment with the seventh and eighth grade. So we have a K-5 curriculum, and then we have a 6-8 curriculum in math. We are also doing that to a great degree within our ELA curriculum as well, where we have the program Study Sync, and in many of our sixth grade classrooms, we're using Study Sync as that foundation. We are in the process of doing a curriculum ELA adoption for K-8 schools, and right now that is the consideration that the team is looking at, is using the sixth grade as part of the continuum of sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. Use that same curriculum. So we do make that consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Corson. And in terms of IB programs, can't think about how long we've had IB at Quail Run. More than about 15 or 20 years. It's getting probably close to that. And to my knowledge, we have not been, we haven't had a site, whether title or non-title, another site express an interest in that. So
Do they know about it?
oh yes, they do. Yeah.
What about
School at each level.
At each level.
Yeah, we only have it at one school at each level, is what she's
But
saying.
it's.
I mean, it's just, it's the same thing as we can only have it at North Canyon for high school. We can only have one.
Can only be one element.
Yeah, it's my understanding. It's not.
Yeah. I
It's
have to look to see that.
International baccalaureate program requirement.
Yeah.
You can't have it at multiple schools.
Is this the birdie?
No.
Yes, but that's middle school.
They still.
They are moving away from it, but it's not contingent upon, but IB at North Canyon is still a book.
But to get the scholarship, you have to go through it for all those years. So what happens at the middle school level?
I don't believe that, you know,
that's not the
True, but the middle years program, whether it's at Lister or North Canyon, and they got together to have this discussion with the IB folks, and trying to use what they have to try to get more students. Vista in the end decided that in terms of what they needed to focus on the middle years program, because implementation is just very tough, that they have decided to move away from that direction. And North Canyon is still retooling what their middle years program. They decided that doesn't quite work for them, but they're still keeping the IB as well. So there's still lots of discussion about what that may look like. Excited that the new principal at North Canyon is an IB. She credits the IB program and helping her through college as well. So she'll be able to add some conversation to that as we begin to talk about what that.
Thank you. All right, Elaine, last question.
Catching up.
So you have something to think about over the summer.
Okay.
Not that you don't have enough work, let's put you a little bit more.
Okay.
You talked about the restructuring of the gifted program. Will that go down to an elementary level? And identifying, as you said, that there are some kids who have that gifted, but are not in the program. I was understanding you.
The restructuring is the twice exception only. Well, it looks like we've expired on time. UPC, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. May you have a safe summer and thank you for students at PV Schools.
Thank you.
It was just.
Yeah. No, that was